We're ready and primed to schedule for 2 doses of the COVID vaccine. Now imagine having to do it a 3rd time because of an issue with the vaccine site. Raise your hand if the COVID dial has confused you at some point during the pandemic. Well, today, the city of Denver said they're making changes and hope it'll make things simpler. We'll let you decide. The pandemic has made it harder for survivors to escape an abusive situation, but we can help tonight a little bit at a time. There are lessons to be learned if you find the right game. We're going to introduce you to a young entrepreneur who said she doesn't want you to win the game she invented, she just wants you to learn. That's next. The state is not saying much after telling thousands of people to restart the vaccination process. Last night, they told anyone who's received a vaccine at a clinic in Colorado Springs just to assume their vaccine dose was invalid and then start the process over. They told patients that the Dr. Moma Health and Wellness Clinic had been improperly handling vaccines, had issues with temperature control, as well as documentation. Our Steve Stager spent the day trying to find out more details about that investigation.
My heart sunk to my stomach.
The email was the punch to Sarah DiMiola's gut. It told her the vaccine dose she got a week ago should be considered invalid because the provider, Dr. Moma Health and Wellness Clinic in Colorado Springs, may not have handled the vaccine properly, may not have stored the vaccine at the right temperature, and didn't do a good job keeping records.
Do I have any immunity right now? Am I building any antibodies right now? It was frustrating.
When it paused vaccinations at that clinic last week, CDPHE said nearly 4,000 doses had been administered there. More than 3,000 additional doses were taken away from the clinic's supply and now have to be destroyed. So in total, that's 7,000 doses wasted.
It's inconvenient, it's wasteful, it's inefficient. I'm disappointed in how the public health officials maybe have been handling this.
The state isn't saying much about what went wrong at Dr. Moma, only that they will require more documentation from providers about vaccine temperatures in the future, and they'll start site visits to ensure the vaccine is being handled properly. For those who got 1 dose of either Moderna or Pfizer, the state says they should wait the appropriate time, 21 or 28 days, then start the whole process over again, assuming the first dose gave them no immunity. For Sarah, that means pushing the light at the end of the tunnel back even more.
You feel like you're finally getting to the end of the COVID tunnel. We're approaching post-vaccine life, and then mine's moved back a whole month now.
Now, the state wouldn't talk to us today about inspections of other sites. We were asking them about that. But late this afternoon, El Paso County told us that they inspected this clinic because of a series of complaints they received about it. The day they visited, there were more than 1,400 appointments on the schedule. That's mass vaccination level. They say investigators observed lax distancing and masking requirements. They say vaccines were in unlabeled and pre-drawn syringes with no indication of how long they'd been out. And that and some other concerns led them to reach out to the state. Anusha, one of them was a lax observation. Sarah told me that they basically said after her shot, you can go sit in the waiting room or go sit in your car. And if you notice something, come on in and tell us about it, which is not really the standard practice for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely not the message that's been shared. You did connect with the clinic owner. What have they been telling you?
Yeah, she says right now she's working on a statement with her lawyer. She did share a couple of things. She has some concerns about this inspection. She wasn't expecting it. No one mentioned that there was an inspection happening. She also says that she never saw anyone go in and look at her storage procedures specifically. We asked the state about that today. They did not get back to us.
All right. Well, thank you so much for staying on top of it. Thanks, Steve. Nearly 23% of our state's eligible population is now fully vaccinated. That adds up to more than 1.3 million people. Nearly 15% of Colorado still needs a second shot. That gray slice is representing the 20% of Coloradans who are younger than 16 and are not eligible for the vaccine. So we were watching that big increase in a single-day positivity rate earlier this week. That ended up falling by more than 2% yesterday to 5.7%, but our weekly positivity rate average went up to 5.8%. Hospitalizations, unfortunately, that has still been going up. 469 COVID patients are now being treated in Colorado hospitals. That is up 30 from the day before. So it has definitely been a journey following the COVID dial, and we've got the latest chapter and changes. So yes, we were talking about the rising number of cases, but the city of Denver is comfortable enough with current data that today they officially changed the mask mandate. So face masks are no longer required in outdoor settings, but they're still going to be required in public indoor areas and on public transportation. The city says that they're going to be taking into account the severity of COVID cases when making decisions on how to move forward. They're also implementing measures that are similar to other local counties. That includes moving to level blue on Friday to help make things more simple.
One of the things that leads to a higher level of non-compliance is confusion. The more confusion we have, the more non-compliance we have with public health orders, the more non-compliance we have, the more cases go up. So that is key on the home stretch here. So we are in alignment throughout the region on that.
So Denver's new mask mandate will expire in 30 days, and then the city's going to decide at that point whether to extend it or adjust it. So as a part of Level Blue, which Denver and other metro area counties will be moving to Friday, like we just talked about, restaurants can operate with 100% capacity. Here's the thing. The Colorado Restaurant Association says they're grateful for this, but also said restaurants still have to abide by the 6-foot rule between tables. So that means smaller restaurants without the space will not actually see the benefits of 100% capacity. The group also says each county being able to establish their own COVID guidelines can create the sense of competition about where customers can ultimately choose to go. So as things are opening back up, a lot more kids are going back to the classroom, and our lockdown lifestyle is now morphing into this adjusted life during COVID. But some of our most vulnerable are also coming back within the eyesight of teachers and daycare centers and other mandatory reporters of abuse. We're talking about kids here, and Mount St. Vincent with SEL Health has been watching this increase in the number of reports of those who have been abused and neglected, and today said that this is a shared responsibility.
Children are one of our most vulnerable populations, and that it takes all of us to be a part of the solution, and for all of us to be part of helping families in our communities and protecting children. And that means, like, those of us who maybe chose a career in where we are a mandated reporter, of course we have to report if we see something, but also that means all of us. So like neighbors, friends, peers, colleagues.
So at one point, Mount St. Vincent wasn't receiving any calls about some of their therapy options during the pandemic, and now that's jumped to several a week. And that's along with what they typically see. It's a steady increase in the number of kids being referred to the foster program, including school-aged kids. They think part of the reason here is that things have opened up more and people are seeing kids again and more frequently. And the resources they're offering, it's not just for kids, but families as well, including parents and siblings.
We know that sexual assault can cause a lifetime of trauma. It's why Colorado is in the process of removing the statute of limitations for civil actions in alleging sexual assault. And it's why the support for sexual assault survivors in Colorado is so critical. This week, our Word of Thanks microgiving campaign is helping expand the work of the Sava Center in northern Colorado. These are the faces of survivors who have received support through the Sexual Assault Victim Advocate Center. They offer help to survivors of both recent assaults and to survivors of assaults that happened years or decades ago. The women who run the Sava Center said something that I have heard from other advocates for survivors, that there's been a clear trend toward more violence in the situations where they attempt to intervene to protect someone or help them process their trauma. The pandemic has also made it harder for survivors to escape abusive situations, and the Sava Center, like others, is expecting to see a wave of people seeking help as society fully reopens. The Sava Center continues to also build trust with the immigrant community, where convincing people to come forward after an assault remains the biggest barrier. So let's support their work together this week. Text the word thanks to 303-871-1491, and I'll send you that link to donate. As always, I'll match the first $55 contributions. Direct assistance for sexual assault survivors, long-term support, and even programs in northern Colorado's high schools. The Sava Center tries to do it all on a very limited budget. Our help can help them expand their work. Thank you.
Colorado lawmakers are working to shield people from being threatened over their immigration status. A law for this already exists, but some are arguing there are gaps that need to be closed. And it's a card game with one goal.
One of the top here is Barack Obama. And so how would you describe Barack Obama without using any of these words?
And it's not about winning, it's about learning about Black culture and stories. There's something in City Park that is turning heads. It's bold, it's artsy, and it's making some unusual sounds. We asked why. That's next. There's apparently a gap in Colorado law that's making it okay to threaten someone based on their immigration status. Lawmakers are working on tightening this law. So right now, it is illegal to threaten to report someone's immigration status in exchange for money. So basically a bribe to keep someone silent. The law, however, is apparently silent on another aspect. For instance, if someone is in an abusive relationship and the survivor, who is in the country without proper authorization, wants to contact law enforcement, it's not against the law for the abuser to then threaten to report the survivor's immigration status.
It is far too common, and that's one of the greater forms of power and control when you have either a mixed status family or a survivor who is undocumented.
It gives survivors the certainty in domestic violence situations that what their abuser is telling them is illegal and that their abuser will be prosecuted if they commit this crime.
The bill has already made it out of the state house and begins the process in the state Senate tomorrow. But there is one area where state lawmakers cannot promise protection. Even if this were to become law, immigration could still be notified, and even if the threat of contacting immigration becomes illegal.
There will be questions around what happens if the individual does report and ICE does get involved. And so the community would need some sort of reaffirmation from Department of Homeland Security that when these instances do occur, that the individual will not be deported.
Immigration is handled by the Department of Homeland Security, which is taking its direction from Congress and the president, not Colorado lawmakers and not Colorado's governor.
Our cool, unsettled weather pattern continues along with cloudy skies, temperatures well below the average of 61. We hit 48 in Denver today, and we'll see that number again tomorrow. Center of circulation north and west will be heading in here on Thursday, and that means a round of heavy rain for the Front Range with a few thunderstorms and heavy snow for the mountains. A winter weather advisory has been posted. Tomorrow night into Friday, the cold air turns that heavy rain into snow, forecasting 3 to 6 inches of snow by late Friday. And once that system begins to move out, we're going to see the potential for some record cold over the weekend. Tonight, a brief rain or snow shower, lows in the mid-30s. Tomorrow, another chilly day with rain. It is Friday when we have accumulating snow, 3 to 6 inches expected. Clearing Saturday, and that means Sunday morning's low could be in the mid-teens.
Tonight's next question comes from a viewer named Annalise. She was visiting Denver City Park and then noticed an art installment in front of the Museum of Nature and Science. She says it looks like a big bronze seed and makes animal noises when you walk by it, and wanted us to get to the bottom of it. Well, how could we say no to that one? Annalise, the mysterious sculpture you were posing in front of is a part of Denver's public art collection. The piece is called Rondure and is supposed to look like a sphere made of tree bark. The artist says that it's representing how humans have manipulated the natural world and the hope that one day there's going to be a healthy balance. The sounds you're hearing from, which I kind of wish we had, are recordings meant to invoke thoughts about the role of humankind and the future of the environment. So whatever your next question is, we're going to get an answer for you. All you have to do is email us at next@9news.com or, get our attention with the hashtag HeyNext. It's a celebration in a space where Black culture isn't often highlighted.
I've also learned so much about the ties that bind us and how important it is when we focus on the ties that bind us to actually come together.
There are lessons to be learned in playing games. You just need to find the right one. That's next. We've had a lot of conversations about educating ourselves in the last year. Then a CU Boulder grad invented a way to celebrate Black stories and Black culture in a space where you don't always see this kind of thing. The game is the brainchild of Funmi Oyatagan, who is now back home in Nigeria. So this week, we adjusted for the time difference and had a virtual visit with the young entrepreneur.
I want people to understand how important it is that we are telling Black stories, that Black stories are not being subsumed. I grew up into a woman, sort of, in Boulder. I started university at 16 and graduated at 20. I loved every single moment of living in Boulder, going to school at CU. I loved it so much. So the way the game works is that there are 300 cards in the box, and each card has one big word as well as 5 smaller words underneath. One at the top here is Barack Obama. And so you have first Black president, Michelle, Malia, and Sasha, POTUS, and Democrats. And so how would you describe Barack Obama without using any of these words? George Weah, he was a football player, and then he became the president of Liberia. Burna Boy, who is, one of the latest Grammy Award winners in Nigeria. So there's just so many different cards. And I've had people not know some of the words and then go back later to say, who is George Weah and who is Burna Boy? And I enjoyed games like this, but I struggled with some of the references. They just weren't my references. So I saw that there was a huge gap when it comes to content that was not just celebrating Blackness specifically, but that was celebrating many different forms of Blackness, many different Black cultures. So I'm hoping that anybody who plays this game just feels a sense of celebration. It celebrates Blackness, the entirety of it. This is probably the most exciting interview I've done for this game so far because it's personal to me. It's Colorado, So thank you for featuring my game. I'm actually trying to hold back tears right now. But anyway, thank you.
Well, thank you to Funmi for sharing her incredible work and sharing her story through the lens of our photojournalist, Chris Hansen. It is a chance for us to help Coloradans during some of their most trying moments. We've got more on this week's Word of Thanks campaign and your feedback next.
The Sava Center is the resource for sexual assault survivors in northern Colorado, and their work extends to preventing future violence through prevention programs teaching thousands of school kids up there. They told me it's been harder to find funding for that work, prevention, during the pandemic. And they're also ready to scale up as schools return to normal. Let's support their important work together tonight. Text THANKS to 303-871-1491, and I'll send you the link to join me in donating. From their prevention work in schools to a 24-hour rape crisis hotline, the Sava Center also offers one-on-one advocacy for survivors through the court process or through medical care. They do a whole lot on limited funding. Please consider giving $5 to stand with them as they stand with Colorado survivors.
We've heard from some of you that the Sava website is running a little bit slow or is down. This happens when all of you at home are so generous and it overwhelms the website. Be patient. I think it's back up, just moving a little bit slowly. Check back, donate, because like you just heard from Kyle, this is such an incredibly important cause. We'll see you next time.